Hello, this is a deck profile on Byssted Hieratic, featuring Bishbaalkin. Now, Byssted are an archetype that are coming out pretty soon. Well, not soon, but in the next few months from Darkwing Blast. And Hieratics are an archetype that have been floating around for a while. Only about 10 years. But they do have some pretty interesting tricks up their sleeves that allow them to be an interesting engine alongside Byssted, most notably being able to summon a Phantasmal Lord Bishbaalkin very easily, a very strong card. Now, to go over the main deck, starting off we have Byssted, and these are the upcoming cards. And to start off with is the Byssted Lubellion, their level 8 monster, and this monster cannot be normal summoned, but must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by tributing one level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster, and you can only summon it once a turn this way. Then you can use each of the flying effects once per turn. The first one is that you can send it from your hand to the graveyard to add a Byssted from your deck to your hand, and being able to search any Byssted monster is very nice. Then, during the main phase, you can place one branded continuous spell trap from your deck face up in your spell trap zone. So as you can imagine, this card's pretty good, especially because if you discard the search, you can then summon it from the graveyard Dragon Ruler style. Now as for the actual Byssted monsters, that we have 3 level 6s as of right now, and they all share the same summoning condition. You can target one light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and special summon this card. And if your opponent controls a monster, this is a quick effect, turning them into pseudo DD Crows. Then each of them has their own unique effect. Byssted Magnabut has the effect where if it is special summoned during the end of that turn, you can add one dragon monster from a deck or graveyard to your hand. Then Byssted Serenir, if it's sent to the graveyard in any way, even, for example, as Xyz material, you can send one Byssted monster except Serenir, or one branded spell trap from your deck to the graveyard. Then the final Byssted monster is Druid Worm, a level 6 dragon like the rest, where its effect is that if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one opponent's special summon monster and send to the graveyard, which is very nice removal, it's non-destruction. Then, as for the spell traps, we have Rebranded, where if a light and or a dark monster is banished, you can target one of those monsters and place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw one card. And this works for both players. This means if you want to recycle a card you just banished to summon a Byssted for yourself, then you can and draw a card. Or if you banish an opponent's monster or they banish a monster, you can shuffle theirs back into the deck and then you draw one card. Now you can only use that effect hard once per turn. Now a soft once per turn effect is that if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target one Byssted monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And this is very nice because they will often be in the graveyard and they all have pretty decent effects when they're to get on the field. Then the trap card, Branded Beast. This is the effect where once per turn, during the main phase, if you control a Byssted monster, you can tribute one dragon monster, then target one card your opponent controls, and destroy it. Just simple removal that can also trigger some of the Bysstet's effects. Then its other effect is during the end phase, you can target one branded continuous spell trap in your graveyard and place it face up on the field. And that's it for the Byssted cards. They're a very strong engine that gets you bodies on board that are a very nice level for this deck, and has some nice interruption effects. Notably, Beast, if it tributes, say, Druid Worm, you get to remove 2 cards, rather than just 1. Or if it's, say, sacks off Serenir, you get to dump a card from deck to graveyard. Now, for the Hieratic monsters. This is an old archetype that you may or may not recognize depending on when you started playing. Now I am playing a pretty small Hieratic package because working on these is not very fun. To start off with, I'm running 3 Hieratic Dragon of Su, a level 6 light dragon, whose effect is that you can special summon it by tributing one Hieratic monster. That has an on-field effect where once per turn you can tribute a Hieratic monster except the self to destroy a spell trap card your opponent controls. Then it has an effect that all major Hieratics share, where when it is tributed, you must special summon a dragon type normal monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then make its attack and defense 0. Then, Hieratic Dragon of Byssted is the normal summon, because you can normal summon without tributing, but its attack becomes 1000. Its effect is you can make all Hieratics you control become the level of a normal monster you control until the end phase, which is an effect. Then, for your normal monster target, we're running 3. 1 Hieratic Seal the Sunshine Overlord, as it is a level 8 normal, 1 Dragon Core Hexer, as it's a level 8 normal tuner, and 1 Labradorite Dragon, as it's a level 6 that's also a tuner. Then, we're running 3 Hieratic Seal of Convocation, which searches any Hieratic monster you want. As well as Reasoning and Monster Gate, as Reasoning can get more bodies on the field, and Monster Gate can also do the same while triggering your Hieratic effects. Then of course 1 Call by the Grave. Now as for the more generic Dragon support, I'm running 1 Red Ace Darkness Metal Dragon, as it is very easy to summon in this deck, allows you to extend, and can even often be used to summon Libellion. Then I'm running 3 Starly Safer, as this card lets you very easily unbrick hands and search cards, as most of these dragons are the same level and can be traded in for each other, and as the effect to banish someone from the grave to add a level 8 Light or Dark, which can be very useful to get a Libellion back in hand that you might have dumped off, say, a Serenir, so you can use its search effect. Then I'm running Danger Bigfoot and Danger Thunderbird to help unbrick certain hands, because if you don't have material in the graveyard, the deck sometimes just doesn't do anything, and these can kind of help with that. As well as the obligatory triple Dark Ruler no more for this format. Now the extra decks are things get pretty interesting. I'm of course running 1 Zeus, as this deck runs Mexes monsters quite often, and so it's nice to make use of them. I'm running triple Dragon King of a Tomb, and Dragon King of a Tomb allows you to, once per turn, soft once per turn, detach 1 material from this card and special summon any dragon from deck, but make its attack and defense 0. And this can summon any dragon in the deck that isn't Byssted Libellion, which is a very strong effect. But notably, you must make of dragons, which isn't relevant for this deck, but to keep note of. Then, 1 number 39 Utopia Beyond. This card, during the turn it is summoned, the attack of all monsters your opponent currently controls becomes 0. A very strong tool to get OTKs, break boards, and make Zeus. Then for the rank 6 that you probably don't recognize, as it's also coming from Darkwing Blast, Volo the Doom Originator of Astral Dragon. This needs 2 or more level 6s, and monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for each card in your opponent's graveyard. A very strong attack boosting effect, especially with cards and decks that mill a lot. And it has the effect or a quick effect, you can target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, then detach 1 or 2 materials from this card to activate the appropriate effect. The effect to activate if you detached 1 material is to shuffle it into the deck. The effect to activate if you detach 2 is if it's a monster, you can special summon it to your field in any position. But if it was a spell or trap card, you can set it to your field, so you can even steal their powerful spell trap cards if you want. Now for the Link package, I am running 1 Underworld Goddess of Closed World, 1 Appaloosa, 1 Unicorn, and then a new card from Pote that's in a TCG only, Pit Knight Early, a very strong Link 2 that needs to affect monsters. And when a monster this card points to activates effect, except during the damage step, you can quick effect, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn, change its attack to 0, also negates effects. So it's negation that reduces attack. And during the end phase, if it's in the graveyard because it's destroyed by battle or card effect, and sit there this turn, you can special summon this card. So it reborns itself every turn, as well as giving you more interruption. A very strong generic option and not hard to make in this deck. Then I'm running IP Masquerena, a Hieratic Seal to Heavenly Spheres, which is actually more versatile here because you're actually running Hieratics. Then 1 Link Spider and 1 Link Karibo, and these are in here to make use of Bishbaalkin. And if you don't recognize this card, it cannot be synchro summoned and instead must be special summoned by sending 2 level 8 or higher monsters you control with the same level to the graveyard, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. And that's why all of this is in here. And its effect is that once per turn during either player's main phase, you can special summon the same number of these tokens on each player's field in defense position. So summon as many as possible, but this card cannot attack for a turn. Another thing to know is that this card gains 1000 attack for each monster on the field. And this is the main playmaker of the deck, as it's not hard to make, especially if you have full combos going, and it can make some very impressive boards. Now, as for what this deck can do, This is a pretty solid hand consisting of Danger Bigfoot, Byssted Magnamut, Starry Shadefurt, another Magnamut, and Byssted Saranir. Now to start off with, I will normal summon Starly Shadefurt, and use its effect discarding Saranir. This will trigger Shadefurt's effect to search me, as well as searching or triggering Saranir to dump. I will search Druid Worm off of Shadefurt, and then trigger Saranir's effect to dump from deck to grave Byssted Lubellion. Then I will activate Danger Bigfoot, and end up discarding Magnamut and summoning Bigfoot, then drawing one. Afterwards, I use Magnamut's effect, banishing the other one, and special summoning itself. Then I will go ahead and trigger its effect to search during the end phase. Then I will activate Byssted Druid Worm. I will banish Saranir and summon itself. And I will overlay these two into a tomb. I use a tomb's effect to summon from deck a Dragon Core Hexer. Next, I will link these two off for Heavenly Spheres. Then I will sync off Dragon Core Hexer and Danger Bigfoot for Bishbaalkin. I use Bishbaalkin's effect and summon tokens on each side of the player's board, 4 to be exact. Afterwards, I will use Shadefurt's effect, banishing itself to go ahead and add Lubellion back to hand. Then I'll begin link plays. I will link off 2 of the tokens into Link Spider to Link Rebo to get effect monsters on my side of the field, and link them into Pit Knight early. Then, I will link the other 2 off for IP Masquerena. Afterwards, I use Lubellion to go ahead and search out Druid Worm. Then I will tribute off Bishbaalkin to summon Lubellion, and use its effect to activate a trap card from deck, Branded Beast. Now as for what this endboard does, well, we have a bounce from Heavenly Spheres that floats into another monster, Pit Knight Early's negation effect when you use Heavenly Spheres, IP Masquerena being able to tag into Unicorn, Appaloosa, or Underworld Goddess, and then a tribute off Beast, as well as a graveyard banish from Druid Worm and another Sind. So let's see on the opponent's turn. After I get my search for Shadefurt, I can summon Druid Worm, say banishing a card from their graveyard, to summon itself, and then I contribute that off of Beast or link it off of IP Masquerena. So this is a pretty resilient endboard that has multiple different amounts of interruption that can definitely mess with the opponent. And while they have plenty of tokens, some decks can't really properly make use of them, and even if they can, it'll be awkward. Now as for what this deck can do with a more Hieratic heavy hand, this hand consists of Byssted Druid Worm, Hieratic Dragon of Su, Called by the Grave, Hieratic Dragon of Esset, and Byssted Lubellion. To start off with, I will normal summon Esset, and then tribute it off for Su. I will trigger Esset's effect to summon from the deck. Using this, I will summon Dragon Core Hexer. Then I will activate Byssted Lubellion's effect to discard itself and search a card. I will search Byssted Saranir. Then I will activate Byssted Saranir's effect, banishing the Esset and summoning itself. I will then overlay these 2 for a tomb to summon a dragon from the deck. In this case, I will go ahead and summon Red Eye's Darkness Metal Dragon. I will use Darkness Metal Dragon. I will first use Saranir's effect to dump from deck to graveyard the Byssted Continuous spell. This is important for later. I use Red MD's effect to go ahead and special summon Saranir back, and then link these 2 off for spheres. I will trigger off Red MD for Byssted Lubellion and activate its effect. I will activate Branded Beast from deck. Then I will sync these 2 off for Bishbaalkin. Then I'll go ahead and activate Bishbaalkin's effect to summon tokens to each side of the field. After the tokens are summoned, I'll go for a similar combo of summoning 2 effect monsters, going into Pit Knight, and then using these 2 to go into IP Masquerena, and then setting Call by the Grave, and ending my turn. And on my opponent's turn, I can summon Druid Worm for similar reasons, like last time, so I can tribute it out for Beast. In this case, I'll just summon on my turn. Then, in the end phase, I could use Beast to recur the Continuous spell, which will allow me to get more interruptions and draws. Now, as for what this deck can do when it draws a ton of garnets, This is a hand consisting of Byssted Druid Worm, Hieratic Dragon of Su, Hieratic Seal Convocation, Hieratic Seal the Sun Dragon Overlord, and Labradorite Dragon. Now start off with, I will use Convocation to search Asset. I will normal summon Asset and tribute over it with Su, triggering Asset's effect, to summon Dragon Core Hexer from my deck. Then I'll use Druid Worm's effect, banishing Asset to summon itself. I'll then overlay these two into a tomb, detach, and summon from my deck Red MD. I'll use Darkmetal Dragon to summon from my hand Sun Dragon Overlord. I will link these two off for Hieratic Seal, and then sync these two off for Bishbaalkin. I'll use Bishbaalkin's effect to go ahead and summon 4 tokens. I will then go ahead and link off these two, like usual, these link monsters. And end my turn. And while this board isn't quite as good, it's pretty decent considering the starting hand. Now, while this deck definitely wants to use Bishbaalkin, what happens if it doesn't? Well, it can still make a pretty competent end board. First, I'll use Byssted Rebellion's effect to search Byssted Magnamut. I'll then activate Rebranded. I'll use Danger Thunderbird to randomly discard a card from my hand and summon itself. I end up discarding Magnamut and summoning Thunderbird and drawing a card. In this case, Convocation, which I will then go ahead and activate searching Asset. Then I will use Serenier's effect, banishing Magnamut and summoning itself. I can then use Rebranded's effect to shuffle it back into the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card. In this case, drawing Bigfoot. Then I can tribute off Serenier for Lebellion and trigger Serenier's effect. I will dump Druid Worm. I will then use Lebellion to activate the trap card directly from my deck. I will normal summon Asset and link these two off for IP Masquerena and set Called By and pass. Now what does this endboard do? Well, I have IP Masquerena to link into, let's say, Unicorn or Royal Goddess, Called By, then I have Rebranded so I can special summon a Byssted from my graveyard. And with this I can summon the Byssted, either Serenier or Druid. And when Druid is tributed off the affected beast, I get an additional send. So this can put up around 4 interruptions, which is pretty good. Especially for a deck that relies a lot on Bishbaalkin. So, in conclusion, this deck's pretty good. It can definitely brick quite a lot and has some choke points, but it's definitely fun and can make some unique looking end boards of monsters you don't see a lot, and some new ones like Pit Knight Early and Volo. And while the Byssted engine is very strong and very well oriented to beat some of the current top decks, and Hieratics aren't bad, they're pretty good for spamming, and they let you go into Bishbaalkin, which is a ridiculously strong card. There's a lot of synergy going on, it's an interesting variant of Byssted, pretty different to the Dragon Link one as it plays mostly like Hieratics do.